The new Peugeot 605.
If Citroën have a name for engineering innovation, then its big brother Peugeot is known for conservatism and reliability. With the new 605, Peugeot now have a big car in the range again, a replacement for the unsuccessful 604 last produced 5 years ago. Like the 604, the new car is styled by Pininfarina, best known currently for the Alfa 164. And Peugeot weren't very happy to see how closely their car resembled the Italian. Despite that, there are strong echoes of the new Peugeot family shape, first seen with the 405. The 605 shares the same floor pan as the hatchback Citroën XM, but it's offered only as a three-door booted saloon with no hatchback or estate versions planned. Prices in Britain should run from about £12,000 for the base model to over £23,000 for the top-of-the-range car. The new 605 range comes with a variety of engine options. There's a new 2-litre unit. It comes in 130 brake horsepower fuel-injected form, and there's also a base-level carburettor engine that develops 115. Now, both these cars run on the new 98 octane unleaded fuel. But the car that Peugeot say epitomises the 605 is the V6 version. Now, it's an engine we've seen around for a number of years now. It's the old joint Peugeot-Volvo-Renault unit. But it's been modified, and in its latest version, we've also seen it in the Citroën XM. But the engine in this car is something very different. Now, this is the high-performance SV24 version of the 605. As the name implies, it's a 4-valve per cylinder version of the V6. Now, it develops 200 brake horsepower, and Peugeot have gone for a relatively complex way of admitting the fuel-air mixture into those cylinders. There's 3 extra butterfly valves inside this inlet tract, and they open at different points in the rev range to satisfy the engine's demand. It's all controlled by a very complicated computer engine management system that has no less than 450 components, they say. As you'd expect in this top-of-the-range version, there's nice leather and wood trim. But 605 generally looks after its rear seat passengers. There's plenty of legroom and more than adequate headroom. You also get face-level vents. We saw those for the first time on the Citroën XM model. And you also get adjustable headrests in the rear. Now, this is not a 5-seater. The centre panel here is not designed to be sat on, and there's no lap strap for a 5th passenger. There is, however, a very complicated armrest that features a separate compartment, and behind it a panel that comes down with a rather obscene-looking cover for your skis when you're off to the resorts. The big Peugeots have always had comfortable seats, and the 605 is no exception. Nice to see the lumbar support control at the front here instead of having to grope around under your ribs. The instrument layout, well, that's very clear, nice black background and white numbers, and they've left the design of the dash panel and the instrument console to Pininfarina. He's chosen to put a row of fairly anonymous-looking switches along here, and one of them is the emergency flashers. I'd like to see a big, red, obvious control for hazard warnings in today's traffic conditions. But the rest of the layout, as you'd expect, all the executive creature comforts. The radio is controlled here on a stalk, and that's something I'd like to see all manufacturers adopt with today's very complicated hi-fi systems. Despite the exotic-sounding specification, 24 valves and 200 brake horsepower, the Peugeot delivers that punch very much in a velvet glove. There's a very even spread of torque from around 1,500 revs right round to almost 5,000, and that delivers the power extremely smoothly. There's no feeling of a Cosworth Sierra with this car, despite the impressive performance. The ride is interesting. Peugeot have gone for electronic control of the dampers, and like the XM, there's a variety of sensors that work out if you're going to accelerate or decelerate or indulge in spirited cornering, and they automatically firm up the ride. The driver can do it independently by pressing a button on the dash, and then the difference between the rather floaty normal ride and this very stiff and rather joggly hard sport ride is very pronounced. Now, in order to get the best possible fuel economy, Peugeot's engine management system cuts the fuel supply at around about 1800 RPM on a trailing throttle. Now, when you're trying to drive smoothly at low speed through town, that can make things rather choppy for your passengers. Peugeot assure me that it only happens on this pre-production car, and that by the time 605s get to Britain in May, it'll all be sorted out. So how will the Peugeot 605 compete in what is, after all, a fiercely competitive sector of the market? There's some very competent cars in there. Rover's 800, the BMW 5 Series, the Renault 25 and the sister car, the Citroën XM. Well, Peugeot's always appealed to people who like their styling to be muted, the engineering to be conservative, but the cars to be strong and durable. Now they've got a new element in this V6 and 24-valve road rocket. Judging by this car, they've achieved just that.